Hello and welcome to Galactic Wisdom. I'm back on tour. I am on a 5-month tour around the US. I'm probably going to most US states, hosting contact events and friendship circles. So if you would like to attend any of my events, then just join my website, www.patreon.com/alien contact. The schedule, thank you for putting that up there for me, Bill. The schedule is free to view if you go to the collections section on that website and go to the tour event details section, and everything's free there for you to take a look at and see what's going on my tour. I am currently in Reno. I just arrived in Reno for about 4 days, Nevada, where a man has been sending me videos of UFOs that he's been seeing when he goes up almost every night on top of some mountain around here in this area. So this evening I'm going to be meeting with him. He's going to take me up onto a mountain here and show me the UFOs that he has been seeing. And the videos are actually quite impressive. So hopefully next week I'll be able to tell you about what he's seeing, or whether it's just human-made drones or whether he's connecting with non-human intelligences. So I have hosted 3 events so far on this tour. The first event was a few days ago in Bakersfield, then Fresno. I worked my way up through California, and then Sacramento last night. And some really interesting things have been happening. And I'm going to tell you about these interesting things. And then, after maybe 10, 15 minutes about me telling you about these interesting phenomena that I've been seeing, I'm going to continue with my working through of reality. So this will, in effect, be reality part 4 that follows on from the last 3 podcasts. So I should start the story of these beings I've been connecting with recently by letting you know that for about 5 years I've had tall silver grey beings who stand around me, who have been seen by a lot of different people. They always describe them in the same way. They're 7 or 8 feet tall. They're very, very tall. People usually put at least 2 verys in front of the word tall before saying what they look like. They're very, very tall, silver grey skin, large bulbous head, and they kind of have an unusual back of their head. There's like a ridge down the back, and there's 2 lobes on top of their heads. I'm guessing they're very intelligent. And a lot of people comment when they perceive these beings are very knowledgeable. That's something that people can pick up from them, that they're very knowledgeable. I guess they're very wise, you could say. Well, these beings have been following me around and protecting me for a number of years. And that protection has been perceived and documented in a number of different ways. There was an event in Shawnee, Kansas, Shawnee Mission Park in Kansas, where a professional energy healer perceived one of these beings sort of in the air above me, just sort of hovering in the air above me, putting out a protective force field around me. And she said it was like a force field, an impenetrable spiritual force field that was protecting me from attack, I suppose. And at that same event, one of my other friends, who is also very, very psychic, she has come to a lot of my events before. And usually when she comes to my events, she can feel the energy of the circle, and she positions herself around the circle in a way to complement my energy and the energy of the people there, in order to best facilitate contact with these different non-human beings. But at that event, she could not feel my energy. She didn't know what was going on. She just knew that my energy was not being felt by her, that it was being blocked somehow, blocked by some kind of force field. So 2 people independently had that psychic perception of a protective field around me. Now, I would say probably 50 different people have seen these beings around me over the years, sometimes at the same time. And so it's very strongly confirmed that they are there. They always get a sense that these beings are close to me. Often people use the word family. 2 or 3 nights ago, somebody who perceived them said that they were like a brother to me, but they seem to know me well. And I can let you know that as far as I'm aware, I was born a human. So I'm not claiming to be an alien. I'm not claiming to be a starseed or anything like that. I'm not sure if I even believe in starseeds, things like that. I was born a human, but I am being enhanced by these beings. I am being changed by these beings. And I have received some kind of insights that in the future, my consciousness will merge with at least one of their biological bodies. And in the future, I would be able to be classed as a hybrid. And it could be that some of these beings that are connecting with me are actually from the future, coming back, connecting with me, which is bizarre and interesting and fascinating. The full story is kind of like the Terminator series. It's very, very similar to that in a lot of respects. But anyway, these tall silver beings, they came into play about 3 weeks ago. I was sitting down and I was trying to figure out the specific locations where I was going to host my contact tour events. And when it came to Fresno, California, I went into Google Maps. I'm looking at Google Maps. I'm trying to find a good park or a good trailhead inside the city or outside of the city, somewhere where I can host an event. And I couldn't make up my mind. There was quite a good location, 45 minutes outside of Fresno, but it was going to be a Monday night, and I wasn't sure if anybody would drive on a Monday night all the way outside into the cold hills just to meet up with me for a couple of hours to do a contact meditation. And the inner city parks, none of them were quite big enough. None of them seemed to be quite right. So I just couldn't decide. And I spent probably 15 or 20 minutes going backwards and forwards, trying to find something better. I couldn't find something better. I didn't know what to do. In the end, I finally decided on one particular park. I think it was called Sierra Bicentennial Park in Fresno. And I just made a decision, let's go with this one. And I put that one down, and that was what it was going to be. That same evening, when I hosted an online event in my group, where my team of friends and psychics and remote viewers and enthusiastic sort of love bringers to the meeting, we all got together, and one of the psychics there said, "Rupert, right now you have tall silvers behind you." And she could see them clearly. And then she started communicating with them. And she said, "And Rupert, they're telling you that they helped you out today. They're telling me," she said, "that they helped you make a decision today. There was a decision you were trying to make, and you were going backwards and forwards, and you couldn't decide which way to go. They made the decision for you." And of course, I knew what she was talking about. The tall whites had helped me decide which location to host the Fresno event in. Now, that's very interesting. It's very interesting because the fact that they were telling a psychic and the psychic was telling me, they were giving me knowledge of their help, which is very interesting in itself, because that's important. These beings are guiding me. These beings are able to nudge me sometimes to make decisions, to move in certain directions, to choose this location over this location, to contact this person or not to contact this person. They're guiding me, which is kind of cool, because I'm getting advanced non-human assistance in my choices. So I like that. But it's also cool because they were giving me knowledge that they were interested for some reason in the location in that location, Sierra Bicentennial Park in Fresno, they wanted me to host the event there for some reason. So what was that reason? Well, when I posted a couple of weeks ago my schedule, and in the schedule was Fresno, one of my friends who I don't know well, but she came to one of my retreats one time, and she's been to some of my online events. And I know she's a energy healer. She is spiritually perceptive. She sees beings around her, and obviously she's interested in this subject. She contacted me and said, "Hey, I live in Fresno. I'm going to come to your event." I was like, "Cool." And she asked, "Where is it specifically?" And I said, "Well, it's going to be in Clovis, which is a sort of a suburb of Fresno." She's like, "I live in Clovis." And then I told her the name of the park, and it was like she lives 9 minutes drive from the park. So this was interesting, that I knew that the tall silvers rather, have guided me to this park, and a psychic lives very close to that park, whom I know, who has a very positive energy, who I can trust, because I've spent a weekend retreat with her. And then she said, "Hey, do you want to come over before the event for a vegan meal?" I'm vegan, and she knew that, and so she offered to get me a vegan meal. I'm like, "Sure, that would be fantastic, thank you." And so I went over there, and having this lovely vegan meal that she prepared, and I explained to her how I came to choose that location, and I talked to her about the tall silvers. Now, when we were waiting in the park for other people to arrive for the evening event, she said, tell me more about the tall silver beings that are around you." And so I started to talk about the tall silvers, started to describe their appearance, their height, and of course, I'm thinking about them. And when you think about somebody, your spirit, your consciousness connects with those people, or those beings. And so I was thinking of them, and my spirit connected with them. They felt that, and then they responded by coming in. They came in to that location, that Fresno Park, and I feel it when they come in. I feel sometimes a twitching in my muscles, often my facial muscles. I feel a change of air pressure, and I often get a high frequency tone in my ears that fades out, as though somebody just struck one of those musical triangle things right by my head. Ding, like that. And I paused, and I said to my friend, "They've just arrived." And she was looking at me like, "Whoa, I just saw them arrive." So when I felt them arrive, she saw them arrive, and she saw an energy move through me and into me and around me. And she described this energy as like an umbrella of protective energy that came around me. So this is fascinating, because what she's describing are what other people, I've been able to deduce, have also seen, this protective field around me. And she said that she also felt a change in air pressure. And what's interesting is nobody else turned up for that particular event. Now, usually we have a nice little group of people arrive, but nobody else showed up for that event. So the tall whites guided me to that park where just one person showed up, and that one person is spiritually perceptive. And so she invited me again back to her home, so that we could do a meditation and connect with these beings as planned, but in the warmth of her home. And then when I was sort of interviewing her, I've got her interviewed on camera to talk about her experiences. She told me another interesting thing. She told me that the previous night there had been in her house a bluish green orb, And apparently that's not uncommon for her to see orbs, spiritual orbs in her home. But then she was drawn away from the orb to the left, where down her corridor there was a black streak, a fast flying black streak of blackness, of something that whooshed along the corridor. Now, that got my attention, because even though I hadn't talked about that the previous night in Bakersfield, one of the attendees of my Bakersfield event had told me that he keeps seeing black streaks flying around through the air close to the group. Now, that's not a phenomenon that I have particularly tuned into before. It's not something that many people have reported to me before, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. Maybe this man is correct, maybe he's not. I don't know, but there's nothing I can do with that, because this is just a one-off incident of somebody seeing black streaks flying around close to the group. But this woman the next day in Fresno, she told me that the previous day at about 8 p.m., she had seen that black streak in her home. So that was about the same time that I was hosting the Bakersfield event. So that got me thinking, okay, black streaks appearing at my Bakersfield event and simultaneously appearing at my next tour location, to the one attendee that I had been guided to meet. What's going on with these black streaks? And so we tried communicating with the black streaks. And what we did was we meditated. I've got all this on camera, but I haven't had a chance to look at my night vision cameras, my thermal imaging cameras, to see if anything was picked up. But what we did was we sat down, got comfortable in the front room, and I led us through a meditation where we astrally projected back one day to the previous evening, to when the black streak had been in this woman's house. And because the black streak was moving fast, we kind of slowed down time. We pulled ourselves to the black streak, and we asked for clarification in a very loving, respectful way. Who are you? What are you? And we got a message back. We established a communication with that black streak. And the message was, after we came out of the meditation, and I asked the lady, what did you hear? She said, she heard one word, and the word was message. There was one word, and the word was message. So it's like, well, this is interesting. These black streaks, are they a message in themselves, or is it a being coming with a message for me or for us? What is the message, and what is the nature of this black streak? And we had time, so we did another meditation, and we took ourselves back to the black streak. And what came out of the black streak when we asked it to show its form was an entity, a being, a non-human being that was seen as a black streak when it was moving, but that's not its actual form. Now, we did not see the form of this being clearly, but we were able to both perceive that it was non-threatening, that it was friendly, and that it was there to give me a message. Now, this is an interesting point I'd like to make. And interestingly enough, when I asked Bill, our producer, if he knew anything about black streaks just before this show, he said what I'm just about to say as well. And I think that this is important. Human beings, we talk about dark things as being negative. We talk about light things as being positive. That's sort of an analogy. But we've got to be careful not to make that too literal. Just because something is light in color or appearance or luminous doesn't mean it's a good thing. And just because something is dark in color or appearance, or lack of luminosity, doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So I know that a lot of people will think, oh, a dark streak, that must be like an evil demonic entity or something. But no, I was open to that possibility, but that's not what revealed itself to us. What we felt was something positive and good. And in fact, there's really no reason for any dark beings to ever come around me, because they never get anywhere with me. I just radiate love at them, and they don't like that, and they go away. Um, so um, these dark beings, they weren't negative, they were positive, and they came with a message. And when we asked for more details, tell us, what is this message that you're trying to give to us? That's when the message came through. And the message came through in the form of a vision of a future event. And the future event was of me being in a clearing, in a forest of trees. And in that clearing, there were a number of different non-human species. And my friend could feel that this message was not coming from one being, this was coming from a group of beings. And she felt that this event was going to happen a little bit later when it warms up a little bit. So maybe the summer, that wasn't clear, but she felt that the message was that I am being invited to go to a meeting, in a clearing, in a forest, with a group of advanced non-human entities. So that was pretty cool. And then when I told my online group of remote viewers and astral projectors and supporters, when I told them what happened in an online meeting, we then did a meditation to the black streak beings. And I told them that there was a message, but I didn't tell them what the message was, because I wanted to see if anybody else could pick up on this message. And so during our astral projection, we connected again with these black beings. And it was then that somebody told me that they had seen some black streaked beings in a vision. And this is before even that meeting. And they had seen a vision with those black streak beings there, of a forest clearing with me in it and a group of beings. That vision was experienced and written down before that meeting. And after the meeting, she sent me all of her notes and drawings of that meeting, and it's quite detailed. So that was pretty amazing. And during my online meditation, there was another person who also perceived a vision of a clearing, and what she perceived is me in the clearing walking along, and as I walked into the clearing, I changed into a tall silver. Now that's interesting, because that almost might be prophetic in itself, because I feel that in my future I am going to be genetically combined with, or spiritually combined with, or one of my incarnations in the future is going to be hybrid tall silver. And so somebody saw me morphing into a tall silver being in a clearing. That's 3 people saw me in a clearing with a group of other beings. That's the message. So I'm excited about that. It did happen that there were a few other confirmations, different people seeing things that matched up with everything that I've just said here. If I were to tell you the whole story, there'd be lots of other loose ends and not loose ends, tied up ends that have come together to bring us to where we are now. But that's the message. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen during one of my tour events. I don't know if I'm going to be alone when that happens. But I have been being told for a number of years that I am going to have significant contact in a place with trees around. So that's very interesting. And maybe that's another reason why you might want to attend one of my tour events to see if anything like that happens. Okay, that is where I've got to now. I am in Reno. Tomorrow evening in Reno, I am hosting a contact event here. Then I can't remember which days these are going to be, but I'm heading down through Nevada. I'm going to go to Hawthorne. Never been there before. I don't know what's there. I am going to go to Tonopah, and I've never been to Tonopah before, but that is the nearest sort of public residential city that is closest to Area 52. Area 52 is like Area 51, and somebody's touching my cheek, so that's interesting while I'm talking. Hello, and thank you for being here. Maybe that means you're going to join me in my in Tonopah. I don't know. But Area 52 is close to there, and because it's less well known, I wouldn't be surprised if more interesting stuff is going on there than in Area 51. But then I'm heading down to Rachel, which is the closest city to Area 51, and I'm hosting an event there. I'm gonna. They don't look like they have much vegan food on the menu, but there's a place called the Little Alien there, and I'm going to go and I don't know, have some fries or something there. So maybe you want to join me for a meal there. You'd be welcome to come over and meet me there if you want to. But then we're going off into the desert and going to do a contact event. Not close to Area 51. I mean, it's about 20 miles away, but that's close enough that if there's lights above Area 51, we would be able to see the sky above Area 51. And indeed, last time I went into that general area, I did record some pretty remarkable things in that area. So I invite you to join me there. Then I'm continuing down to Las Vegas. Friday night, I'm hosting a Las Vegas event in the location where I've connected many times with tall white entities, not tall silvers, tall white entities. So that could be a fun experience. One time when I was there a couple of years ago, and I'm just standing talking to the attendees of my event who came to do contact meditations with me. Behind me, this white, spherical, luminous something appeared in the sky, so bright you couldn't tell what it was, whether it was a craft, a whole glowing sphere, but a bright, big something in the sky behind me. And I turned around to try and see what is that, and get my video camera up to it. I was not able to video it because it happened fairly fast. It shrank back down and disappeared into nothingness. But we all saw it. It was very, very big. It was very impressive. I did record the audio to people's reactions to it. And I probably have played that at some time, but I had to beep out everybody's swear words because they were so shocked at what they saw. Anyway, and the following day, I think it's going to be the Saturday, I'm hosting an event in Henderson. Now, Henderson is, I used to live there. So I used to go out close to the hills on the east side of Las Vegas, Henderson area. And There are reptilians that live out there, and there are interesting things that come up from the mountains there. So that should be an interesting event, the Henderson event. Then I'm heading across to Utah and other places, but I will get to those other locations probably next week. I will tell you about them next week. So we still have 20 minutes of the podcast left. So I'm going to get back to my working through of reality, my summarized form of my summary of everything important about reality, both scientifically understood and in the realm of the paranormal and aliens. And the last time I was talking about this, I was talking about consciousness. And I do want to recap briefly on consciousness because this is important, but also because the next thing I'm going to talk about is source. And in order to understand source, we need to understand consciousness, first of all. So our spiritual brains and our spiritual consciousnesses are very agile. They can travel around through time and space. We can astrally project, we can remote view, we can remote communicate with beings in different times and places. Our consciousnesses can also expand outwards. It's kind of a contact methodology. You expand your consciousness outwards to fill the sky, and anything that's in the sky can feel you, and you can invite them to come in. So we can expand our consciousnesses into large consciousness fields. And countless, trillions of advanced consciousnesses throughout the universe can do the same things. So this results in a universal spiritual consciousness network and a universal spiritual consciousness field. We can connect our consciousnesses with consciousnesses all around the universe, trillions, countless trillions, trillions of different consciousnesses we can connect. Not as one. The mathematics of that doesn't work. One is not the same thing as trillions of trillions. Okay. And, but we can connect as a consciousness network. We can connect with it, we can feel it, but it isn't one consciousness, it is many. Because I know it's popular for people to say we're all one consciousness, and people say stupid things without thinking about them, without thinking about what they're saying. But if you think about what you're saying rather than just like copy and paste thinking, you copy from somebody else and you paste it into your mind, then you copy it from your mind and you paste it to somebody else. If we can do better than that and think about the meaning behind the words we're using, it's very clear to us that we're not all one consciousness. If we were all part of one consciousness, then we would all be conscious of the thoughts and the feelings and the experiences and the relationships, etc., of all of the people on the planet, of all of the animals on the planet, of all of the spirits in the spirit realm, of all of the aliens throughout the universe. If we were all one consciousness, we would all be conscious of everybody's consciousnesses. That's what conscious means. That's what a consciousness is. The word itself tells you what it is. We're not one consciousness. Okay? No matter how impressive somebody is who tells you we're all one consciousness. No, we're not. Think about the words. Okay? We're not one consciousness. There isn't a universal consciousness field. I'm sorry, there isn't a universal consciousness. There is a consciousness field that's made up out of the collective consciousness fields of everybody. We can connect with a consciousness network, a universal consciousness network, but it's not one consciousness. It's very odd, the compulsion of people to try and make everybody and everything the same. We're not, and it's okay. The difference between a universal consciousness and a universal consciousness network is a bit like the difference between there being just one huge computer on this planet, that's like a single universal consciousness, and there being a international network of individual consciousnesses. That's what we've got on this planet with computers. We've got an internet of computers on this planet, and in the universe we've got an internet of consciousnesses connecting with each other. We've got a universal consciousness network comparable to our internet, where you are each one consciousness in the network, just like you probably have one computer that can connect to the internet and then becomes part of the internet. So it's important to understand that, I think, in order that we don't believe ridiculous things and end up going down paths that are completely untrue. Now let's talk about source, and the reason why I prefaced the source conversation with consciousness is because one of the things that people think about source is that it is a universal consciousness. But there is not a universal consciousness, and we can prove it just by thinking and observing. And source, if source exists, it's not a universal consciousness. Some people might call the network, the universal consciousness network, source. You could do that if you wanted to. But it's not a universal consciousness. It's not one being. It doesn't have one mind. Source is kind of like a god. Well, it is a godlike belief, because a lot of people think that source is a creator consciousness. If you're talking about a creator consciousness, whether you call it God or source, you're talking about the same thing. Source, when people talk about source, it's just a word for God that has a more modern feel to it, because when people talk about source, it's a bit like recycling, like the recycling of nutrients through nutrient cycles and water cycles and various different cycles that are scientifically understood on our planet. People think of source being a little bit like that, like we come from it and then we go back to it. There's like a cycling process that goes on. And sure, our atoms, are made from stardust, and we form our bodies from molecules that have come from the air and water and the ground and the food, and then after we die, our molecules go back into the ground and the air and the water and so forth. And there's this recycling, and the energy is also goes in a cycle. The energy is inside molecules that's responsible for chemical reactions that gets recycled and everything too. But it's not a recycling of consciousness. There's no reincarnation going on in this process. Once your consciousness is formed, it doesn't then get well, I'm going to say that our consciousness does survive into the spirit realm. It doesn't go into this reincarnation cycle. So people have this idea that source is like a godlike thing, a creator being that is universally conscious. It's not. And again, just a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of thinking will tell us that that's not a thing. So I know I'm going to annoy people by saying that source isn't a thing, but source isn't a thing. At least it's only a thing if we're talking about science. If we're talking about, yes, we come from elements, and if we call elements and stardust and the matter of the universe and the energy of the universe, if we call that source, fine, that's where we're coming from, source. But it's not by conscious design. That's where people are going mystical and woo-woo. So source is not a thing. Humans seem to have a psychological compulsion, a need to have been created. And, you know, part of me wants to say it's very odd, but it isn't really odd. It's completely understandable. There are many reasons why people like the idea that they have been created and they didn't just form naturally. The idea that we have been created helps us to believe that everything, this creator is like a fair, moral overseer of everything, has got everything under control, helps us to believe that everything that we see that's unfair in the world, everything that's unfair and everything that's unjust, will end up being fair and just by design, by intelligent, conscious, creative design at the hands of a creator. There is no evidence of that. At least the only evidence is not substantial. It's not objective evidence that leads to any kind of proof or logical reasoning. It's all sort of fanciful fiction. It helps us to believe that the presence of a creator helps us to believe that we have a purpose, a predetermined purpose that gives our lives meaning, a predetermined purpose that makes all of our suffering on this planet okay and worthwhile. But there's no evidence of that because it's not true. We can objectively determine that human beings were not created by a creator because evolution is real. It's a science. It's a proven science. If you've been raised to believe that evolution is just a theory, well, you've either been lied to or you just didn't get what you were taught in school. It's not just a theory. Evolution is a proven fact that happens every day in an observable way. There are countless, hundreds of proofs of evolution. Evolution is so solidly proved as being a fact that it can't not be true given what we know about DNA and variation in offspring, things like that. It's a fact that can't not be true. If you can prove that evolution is true, you're proving that we weren't created. That's why religion has many religious people in the past and in the present attack evolution so badly, so strongly, because it actually disproves the idea that we were created. It makes human beings feel good to think that we are somehow special by design. Somebody created us purposefully. It helps us to believe that everything's going to be all right in the end. That's a common belief. People say to me when I talk about climate change or nuclear weapons or the erosion of democracy on the planet, people say everything's going to be okay in the end. That is not wise. It's not consistent with reality. It's not consistent with the history of humanity. And it is simply sticking one's head in the ground. Galactic wisdom, cosmic wisdom, alien level wisdom is not about just accepting whatever belief feels good. It's about learning truths. Because when you know truths, you can make your good by solving the problems. And then on top of your having solved the problems, then you can make everything good and everything all right. But it's not going to be all right just by saying it. You've got to focus on what is real before you can solve the problems. It's one of the things that our alien friends are trying to help us to do. It helps us to believe that a creator being cares about us, that we have a supernatural parent, a father, looking over us. That's a nice feeling, to think of a parent. Like we're children, we have parents, and that feels good. Well, if we were to have a parent, it's not a creator being. It would the nearest analogy to a parent, the nearest beings that fit the analogy of being parents to us are non-human entities, are aliens, and they are here to give support and advice and even protection to people who are not sticking their heads in the sand, who are trying to push towards solving problems, and not just pushing the problems aside, or even, because when we push the problems aside, when we ignore the problems, we often are contributing to the problems at the same time. That's not wise. So there is no creator being, there's no source, at least not a conscious source, not an intelligent source, not a creator source. Time. Let's talk about time next. Time is two-dimensional. The two different dimensions of time can be referred to as real time and temporal time. The temporal time for me right now, well, for us, if we're going to talk generally, is 2025. The temporal time, the temporal year when I came to the US was 2001. The temporal time when Star Wars was released was 1977. That's temporal time. If time were only one-dimensional, then that Star Wars release and my arrival in the US would forever be gone, completely inaccessible in the past. Can't get there. However, both of those events are happening right now in real time, in the second dimension of time. So time is in motion, time is moving. The future is changing, the past is changing, and they exist now in real time at different points in temporal time. That fact allows me, if I want to astrally travel back to 1977 or to 2001. Anyone in the universe, wherever they are in temporal time, is at the same point in real time. In temporal time, for us, the universe is about 13.8 billion years old. But the future exists, and in the future, the universe is older. So there is a absolute age to the universe. If you travel forwards through temporal time to the furthest point in temporal time that you can get to, the leading edge of temporal time, then that point, at that point, temporal time equals real time. That's the real age of the universe. Who knows how many billions of years old the universe really is? My guess is on 42 billion. I don't know. The existence of two dimensions of time enables the following things: the time travel of information, the time travel of consciousness. Our consciousnesses can travel through time and connect with other beings, and other beings' consciousnesses can travel through time and connect with us. The existence of two dimensions of time enables altering of the timeline. If I can go back in time and change something, well, if I can go back in time and make my consciousness be felt, then I could give a message to somebody, hey, don't do this or do this instead. They could choose a different path, a different choice than the original choice that they made, I can change time. We can all change time. This is not paradoxical because time is two-dimensional. It would be paradoxical if time were one-dimensional. That whole grandfather paradox and stuff. That's not a paradox because, okay, I go back in time. Hypothetically, it's not a very nice thing to do, but I go back in time and I kill my grandfather. I'm not going to do that. But if I did, well, okay, that particular grandfather won't then have my parents, and then I won't then be born. But it will take 60, 70 years, whatever, from that point of new time being lived for that change to reach 2025. Doesn't happen instantaneously. It's not like Back to the Future. That's just the movie. That's fiction. It takes time for time to progress. So it wouldn't change the fact that I had already been born and had traveled back in time. It wouldn't change my existence in the here and now. And in the here and now, I'm going to keep moving forwards through time at the same rate that my dead grandfather won't move through time. So nothing will catch up anything. There'll be this band of different time segments going into the future. It's good that there are two dimensions of time because it means that we can try to make the future better. This is important, and this is the message that I want to leave with you. We can make the future better if we receive messages from the past or the future, from an outside time. And I'm giving you those messages in this show. We can make the future better, but you can only be successful in changing the future if you allow information from the future to change you. I hope you will consider joining my group at www.patreon.com/aliencontact to learn more and to come and join me at one of my tour events. If you live in Reno, come and join me tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock. I wish you all peace, love, and well-being. You all take care. Goodbye for now.